Hey there, I'm Lance and I'm a gamer.
And I'm Sam, and I'm a non-gamer.
And we are Love to Hate, where we help gamers find great games to play with
And
non-gamers.
today we're taking a look at Kebab by Family Tree Games.
Kebab, the board game on a stick. Now, this is a very unique game because you will actually have sticks in this game, and you will be playing a board game on sticks, kebab sticks.
You're making a kebab.
Yeah, you are making a kebab. I mean, that's pretty much the theme of this game. This game has these chunky wooden kebab pieces that are going to be pineapples, mushrooms, peppers, meat, pretty much anything you could imagine being on a kebab, you will have that in this game. And you are basically trying to replicate patterns of those items on your kebab stick. And the player who can do that best is going to be the winner. You are going to have some interesting drafting choices in this game. Let's go down to the table where I'll show you how this one works, and then we'll come back and share thoughts on it as a gamer and non-gamer. All right, I have Kebab on the table. Let me show you all this board game on a stick. What you have here components-wise, you have some kebabs. You've got lots of sticks, one for each player in the game. You do also have lots of cards in the game. You've got this grill token, and you've got a cloth bag that is going to hold all of the different items that you would see on a kebab. You've got some onions, some peppers, mushrooms, meat, shrimp, pineapples. I think that's it. I think those are all the different ingredients in the game. But anyhow, they're all in this bag right here. Now, how this game is going to work, you are going to make sure that everybody has a kebab. And we'll go ahead and keep one of our kebabs right here so you can see it. And then every player will receive one of these brown grill cards. Now, what these cards are, they're going to have different patterns with the different ingredients on them. They'll always have 3 different ingredients. And you want to just try to replicate this pattern somewhere on your kebab by the end of the game. So we want shrimp, onions, and peppers. And I would keep this face up in front of me. Now, in a higher player count game, I can only complete 2 of these at most. In a lower player count game, I can complete more of them, but this is what you're trying to do is just replicate the pattern with these. And I would keep this right here next to my kebab so that I can look at it. Now, how a round is going to work, you are going to flip out 2 of these blue cards. Now, on these blue cards, they're going to have different ways to score points throughout the course of the game. This particular card says that you would get 2 points for having whatever ingredient we put on this card, because you're going to be putting one ingredient from the back onto this card to show you what it's scoring points for. So let's say that it happens to be meat. And so we would place meat right here. And it's basically saying that we would get 2 points for having meat be at the end of our kebab on either end. If we can get meat on both ends, then we're going to get 2 points for each of those. So that's a total of 4 points. Otherwise, it's just one meat is going to get us 2 points if it's on the very left end or the very right end. That's what this card's saying. Whereas this card here is saying 2 points for every 2 meat. And so if I had 4 meat, let's say, then I would get 4 points because it's 2 points for every 2. But we don't get to pick that. The first player in the game gets to pick that. And we would load up this grill and the area next to the grill with some of these ingredients. Now, the first 2 that are drawn from the bag always get placed onto the grill, and then the rest are going to get placed off to the side. And the number of ingredients that you place out here is going to be 2 times the total number of players plus 1. So in a 4-player game, that's going to be 9 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that would be the draw for this first round. And starting with the first player is going to choose one of these ingredients that aren't on the grill, the ones off to the side, to then place on the card of their choice that is going to give points at the end of the game. So maybe they say, let's go meat, and let's go 2 for every 2. The card that was not picked is going to get discarded. This card would stay. And that is something that's going to be giving points at the end of the game. So players need to try to play off of that card. Now, we would draft what is out here, starting with the first player. They would get first pick. And of course, if I'm the first player, 2 points for every 2 meat. Well, yeah, I'm going to take meat. And I would slide that onto my kebab. And I could have taken the meat that was on the grill. However, I probably wouldn't do that because how this grill token works is the player who takes the last item that's on the grill gets to take the grill with it, and that means they get to be first player in the next round, which is nice because you get to determine which of the next 2 cards to come out will score at the end of the game. 2 points if the selected ingredient is one of the 2 ingredients that are directly in the middle, because you'll have 2 ingredients be directly in the middle of your kebab. So you could get a total of 4 points if they happen to both be mushrooms in this case. Or in this case, you would get 0, 2, or 5 points if you have 1, 2, or 3 mushrooms in a row anywhere on your kebab. So you would want to try to get lots of mushrooms in a row if you picked that card. But those would be the options for the next round. And players would continue to draft. Now, how the drafting works in this game, it's a snake draft. Now, if you're not familiar with the snake draft, as it might be seen most often in fantasy football drafts, for instance, how it's going to work is the first player will choose first, then the second player will go, the third player will go, the fourth player will go. Again, we're pretending this is a 4-player game. Then the fourth player would go again. They would actually get to go twice in a row, and then it would go reverse order. So the third player would go, the second player would go, and then the first player would get whatever option is left out there. So if that's the last thing that's out there, I would have to take pineapple. And then looking at my kebab from the meat that I chose at the very beginning, I could either add the pineapple on this end or I could add it on this end. Let's say I do it like that. But from now on, these 2 are stuck. You couldn't separate them because once it's on the kebab, it stays on the kebab. So if in the future I draft a shrimp, I'd either have to place it here or I'd have to place it there. Now, keeping in mind, yes, I'm trying to fulfill the cards that end up coming out here. Let's say there's one right there, and it is mushrooms. But I'm also trying to complete this card, because once I complete this card, I can show it to everybody, and I can draw another one to try to complete. And that is how that works. Now, these are going to give me 5 points apiece at the end of the game, but I will also score points for the cards that end up out here. You will play 5 rounds in this game, so there will be 5 scoring cards out here with ingredients on them, and that is how you'll get points in this game. Now, that's how you play a higher player count game. Now, if you're playing a 2 or 3 player count game, it will be a little bit different. You will actually have 2 kebab sticks. One for each hand, so to speak. And how many ingredients will be out here in the draft will actually be 4 times the number of players plus 1. So in a 2-player game, it would be 9 again. And essentially, you will draft snake-wise multiple times. So in a 2-player game, let's say, it would go first player, second player, second player, first player, first player, second player, second player, first player, first player, until all the things are picked up. And that's how it would work in a 2-player game. 3 players would be the same. You would just have 3 players. So first player, second player, third player, second player, first player. You get the idea. But yeah, that's how you play the game. And whoever has the most points at the end is going to be the winner based off of what cards out here score, as well as your completed pattern cards, giving you 5 points apiece. And yeah, whoever has the most points is the winner. And that's how you play Kebab. Let's go back up top and share our thoughts on this one. And we're back, and now we're going to share our thoughts on Kebab, the board game on a stick, from a gamer and non-gamer's perspective. So Sam, first thing I got to ask you about is just the way this game looks out on the table. I mean, it's a very unique set of components. When I first saw this game, I was, kind of enamored with the components of this game, having these long kebab sticks, a bag full of kebab chunky wooden pieces. It was just a very cute looking game that very much piqued my interest because it just has that family game look to it. What were your first impressions seeing it out on the table?
Yeah, I mean, I think because it's so like manipulative as far as like
tactile. It's
Yeah.
very,
It also makes it a little bit easier to understand. It's not just cards, because
Yeah.
I'm sure they could have done the same thing and made it.
wouldn't have been as cool though.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it was, definitely appealing.
Yeah, definitely so. Has a nice table presence to it. And I love that the objects are these chunky wooden pieces and not just like cardboard tiles or cards like you were saying, but that they have kind of almost a feel of it being like
Yeah.
real kebab pieces. Now obviously they're still wooden and they're small, but they're chunky.
Yeah.
And that to me is important because it actually feels like there's some weight on your kebab stick a little bit.
Yeah.
So it fits with the theme, if you will, with that. Let's talk about the gameplay experience. The idea with this one, I feel like, is a pretty straightforward idea. I think it's very intuitive as far as you have this pattern that you're trying to replicate. I think maybe the most complicated aspect of the game are those scoring cards and deciphering what does the iconography or the symbology mean on these cards, just understanding it, looking it up in the rule book as you go. But outside of that, I feel like it's a fairly straightforward, intuitive game. What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I really like games that like recipe card type games. I feel like it's usually very visual.
Yeah.
And typically pretty intuitive
Yeah.
in how to play, because most of us have read a recipe, kind of understand the whole thought process there. And this is
Yeah.
along the same lines.
Yeah, pretty much. Repeat this pattern somewhere on your stick, right? But then also you've got this idea of the drafting, and whoever is going to be the first player gets to pick an in-game scoring condition and what, ingredient is going to be on that in-game scoring condition. So you have a lot of power as the first player in this game, but you're probably not going to get the greatest drafting choices. You get the very first pick, which is great, but then you're stuck with whatever's at the end, which is awful. Because it's never going to be something that works out well for you. So it's going to screw your stick up. So you kind of have to, be very careful about how often do you want to be the first player. What was that like for you, trying to decipher, balancing out that turn order kind of thing?
Yeah, that was definitely hard for me, and deciding which cards I'm going to go for, because I'm always the type that I'm going to go for everything.
Yeah,
and
you cannot do that.
No, because some completely cancel each other out. And I didn't like that.
Okay.
I was like, why are there cards out there that are not going to help me? Obviously, that's just being,
Yeah, that's the way the game unfolds, because not everybody wants to go for the same thing you're going for.
Yeah. So, but then, too, like, you kind of look and see, it does take a level of
hate drafting.
Yeah.
Does happen.
And that, I won't say it's easy to do that either, though, because you have to really think about what's their next.
No, but and this is going to come up in pros and cons, that there does come a point in the game, usually towards like the later quarter of the game, that you start to realize you're limited. Like, there's probably no more ways for you to get points in the game. So the best thing to do is just make sure nobody else can get any point.
Yeah.
And you can absolutely do that in this game.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to pros and cons here. So, Sam, bullet point highlights that stick out to you in a positive way that work well for you being a non-gamer. What would that be with Kebab?
The game is pretty I wouldn't say self-explanatory, but easy to understand once you do explain it one time. It's not one that I felt like I was constantly having to be re-educated on. I think I could play it again with very little input.
I just want to throw out there, I feel like I could play this game in 5 years from now, not having played it since now, and I would know exactly how to play this game.
Everybody knows you could do that. I'm saying I could do that.
I think a lot of people could do that.
I do like the pieces and the physical making a kebab. I think that's fun. It gives you something to do while you're kind of, it's physical. And then it's a 20-minute game, and I think it lives up to that for sure.
Yes, it doesn't overstay its welcome, which is a huge thing for this game. And any cons that I would have for it are minimized by the fact that it is a shorter game.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't overstay its welcome. And so that means that those cons aren't major problems, in my opinion. So, love the way that it looks out on the table. To me, this is kind of like the perfect look for a family game, because it just has that inviting look. Like it almost has, some people I think would agree with me. It almost has that like kids table board game look to it, almost a little bit. The front cover of the box, and they make really great family games.
Yeah.
And this looks like it could fit right there in with that. But yeah, no, it's just a very intuitive game, like Sam said, and welcomes a lot of people to the table, I feel like, and it's fun. It's a fun game. Anything about it that maybe doesn't work for you?
I think there's a couple scoring cards that weren't as intuitive as far as what does this mean.
Yeah.
That's probably the only thing that I needed clarification on. Everything else was very easy. It's just a couple of those cards. I was like, I don't understand what this is getting me points for. And so then at the end, if you misinterpreted that or you didn't ask for clarification, then the scoring could be off a little bit.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. I think, some of them are very straightforward and make sense. And then I did find that there were sometimes we had a card come out where, maybe one or two of us understood it, but not the whole table did. And they would have to say, well, okay, remind me of what that is again. Not that that's a major problem because, again, it's a 20-minute game.
Yeah.
But that does happen. So, yeah.
I almost wish there was just like a little bit of text on.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, they could have done a little bit more, but I think they were probably trying to go for more,
just icons.
Minimization on the cards. Yeah. For me, I mentioned this earlier, one of my cons for this is that the game, albeit 20 minutes, does sort of feel like that maybe the last round, maybe round and a half, 2 rounds, you can get to a point where you just, there's no more ways for you to really score points. You could have completely finished your pattern cards, or maybe you realize I'm not going to be able to finish even the first one because of how I've made my stick. And that's not necessarily that I'm playing bad. Maybe I'm just going for those cards in the middle, the ones that give you a lot of points. But that with what is chosen in the later rounds, there's no way that I can, accomplish everything. So it sort of could feel like towards the later part of the game, like I'm just kind of going through the motions, writing it out till it's over, or trying to screw everybody else up. And so there is some hate drafting with this. There is some, I'm going to just pick this one out because it hurts me less than what it's going to hurt you. I know you're not going to get any points from this. I'll at least get 1 point or, something like that. So that can happen, and it can sort of feel like you're playing against the spirit of the game a little bit. I don't know. Maybe they were going for that, but that does happen in this game. So, but it's a 20-minute game, so it's not that big of an issue, I feel like. I don't know. Okay, let's get to our final scores here for Kebab, the board game on a stick. So scale of 1 to 10, love to hate. Where does this one come in at for you?
I'd probably give it a 7.2.
7.2. Any reason for that?
I definitely play it again. I think it was a good game. I don't know if it blew me out of the water, but it's a solid game. I think we'll keep it for a while, see how much it gets used on the table, and go from there.
Yeah, I think this is one that will get played quite a bit. In the right context. Like, I feel like it's a smaller game, so it can travel really well. Should be one of the pros we should have thrown out there.
We're going on a trip this summer, and we're already thinking about what board games are coming with us, and this possibly could, because the people we're going with have played it,
and they enjoyed it a lot. I think that's another pro for it too, is that we've not had many cases where people were like, that's not that great. I played it with some work friends. Everybody really enjoyed it. So for me, I'm going to be a little bit higher than where Sam's at. I think it's a 7.4 for me. I think it definitely has a degree of novelty to it. Is it a gimmick? Probably. But is it a gimmick that works and makes the game fun?
I don't think it would work without.
No, exactly. You have to have the sticks. You have to have the chunky wooden pieces. And I love the fact that it has all of that. And it is an enjoyable game. Is it something that I want to play, every game night, every week? No. But no game really is when you really boil it down to it. But this one definitely has a place for any board gamers collection, and I think a lot of people out there would really enjoy this one. So 7.2, 7.4, that's where we're coming in at on Kebab, the board game on a stick. It is from Family Tree Games. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about this one.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.